Welcome to today's edition of 3 Minutes of Halacha. Today I want to address the question of whether or not it's permitted to eat or drink before we daven. In the Gemara in Brachot and Daf Yud Amud Bet, there are two important statements attributed to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. The first is an interpretation of a phrase in Sefer Vayikra Lo Tochlu Al Adam, that it's prohibited for us to eat blood. But the way Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov interprets it is very different, saying Lo tochlu kodem shetitpalalu al damechem. That what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is also teaching is that we're not allowed to eat before we daven for our own existence, our own blood. He then goes even a step further, and he says that if someone does eat and does drink before davening, the pasuk would be describing him when it says, "V'oti hishlachta acharei gavecha," that we have cast God behind our backs, al tikrei gavecha elegeecha. Not only have we cast God behind our backs, but we've cast him behind our pride. We look after ourselves before we are concerned with God. It's based on this that the Rishonim give a number of examples of what you might be able to eat or drink in the circumstances, but in general it should be prohibited. The Rush says, for example, you're allowed to drink water because water is such a simple drink, it doesn't indicate any sense of haughtiness or overconfidence. The Beit Yosef says that if one is significantly thirsty before davening, be permitted to drink because otherwise they wouldn't be able to concentrate properly during davening. And he even quotes the Mahari Abu Hav, who says that if a person isn't feeling well, they're allowed to eat or drink because that's considered like a refuah. Ultimately, in the Shulchan Aruch, the Mechaber notes it's prohibited to tend to one's needs or to travel until one davens, and similarly, one should not eat or drink, but water is permitted. However, he then does quote the Rambam, who says if one is hungry or thirsty, it's considered as if he's sick, and if he's able to pray with a proper intention, he could, and if not, he may eat or drink a little bit before davening. It's the basis of this that Hasidim had the custom on Shabbos morning. They have some cake, and also to have something to drink so that they would be able to concentrate properly throughout the long Shabbos davening. The Mishnah Berurah limits what you can drink, even in those cases, saying that coffee would be permitted, tea would be permitted in addition to water, but you shouldn't be adding milk or sugar to them. The Aruch HaShulchan disagrees, and he says the custom is to add milk to the tea and coffee before Shacharit. This, of course, does not apply to children. Many years ago, Rabbi Aaron Lichtenstein was staying at my home, and I asked him before we went to shul if there was something I could get for him. He explained that he needed to have a glass of water, but he was very uncomfortable in drinking it because he'd never had anything to eat or drink before he would daven, until his doctors insisted that he had to have something. They suggested orange juice because he needed that extra amount of sugar and liquid before so he'd be able to maintain his health. He compromised with them after some negotiation and took one glass of water before he davened. I poured him the glass of water, I handed it to him, and he drank it right away, almost as if it was medicine, because for him, we wouldn't eat or drink. He wasn't from the Hasidic background, but a Litvische background. So you wouldn't eat or drink before davening. For him, this was a necessary refuah that he had to have, and he treated even the water like a refuah.